Police in Mobile, Alabama are apologizing after they thought it would be funny to use cardboard signs that they had confiscated from homeless people as a gag gift for their supervisor. Now, this happened again in Mobile, Alabama, and the photo was posted on Facebook. This is what the photo looked like with 2 police officers. And there was also a caption that read, "Want to wish everybody in 4th Precinct a Merry Christmas, especially our captain. Hope you enjoy our homeless quilt. Sincerely, Panhandler Patrol." So this isn't funny, it's not cute. And luckily the police department did issue an apology and they took that photo down. But that doesn't change what's really going on in the minds of some of these police officers. These are people who are living in the streets. These are people who don't have homes. These are cardboard signs asking for money so they can eat, so they can live. I mean, just recently, there was a homeless person who died on the steps of City Hall in Los Angeles, okay? We're in the middle of winter. This is not cute. And so you're supposed to protect and serve. What are you doing? Poking fun at the homeless?
So last couple of weeks, I went to serve food for the homeless. So I tell you that only because I interacted with those folks a lot more and talked to them than I have before. And so, look, I think that a lot of people like these cops don't get, no, they had a job very recently. They had a home very recently, a huge percentage of them. And everybody's one paycheck away. Not everybody, but to be fair, about 40% of Americans are one paycheck away from losing everything. And so I hope this is obvious to a lot of folks, and we have a lot of progressives watching, so it's obvious to a lot of you. But it isn't obvious to people like this and to a stunning number of people, okay? So having talked to people at great length that are homeless, story after story, foreclosed on, and then get into a vicious spiral, harder to get a job. People who are engineers, one guy I met is a social worker and has a good job right now, but has to live out of his car because he has too much student debt.
Jeez.
It's unreal, okay? And so there's this common misconception that all the homeless are either drug addicts or have mental health issues. Actually, for example, and this is different across the country, but in LA, that's only 42%. The 58% are people who just literally cannot afford a home. So now a lot of folks move back in with family. I talked to a teacher recently, and she couldn't afford her $1,200 apartment because she's getting paid minimum wage, $15 an hour. She's a teacher, full-time teacher, right? But what if she didn't have that supportive family? Well, I've seen people who don't, and then they wind up in the streets. And so in different parts of the country, including here in LA, you think of LA as warm, but actually there's a whole desert part of LA County, and it gets to be freezing. And if you're in a tent, you freeze to death. And so it happened on the steps of City Hall, but it happens all across the country. And so for God's sake, have a little empathy. And when I talk to those folks, that's the #1 thing that they asked for. They said, can you please just remember to love thy neighbor? It's not too much to ask for, especially for folks who are in a position of authority and dealing with them every day. And even if it's an unfortunate situation, please try to show compassion rather than being merciless.
Yeah. Man, it's so vicious toward the powerless, and I just don't get it. But anyway, the police chief for the Mobile, Alabama Police Department issued an apology saying the following: as a police department entrusted with serving and protecting our community, we offer our sincerest apology for the insensitive gesture of a Facebook post by 2 of our officers where they were holding up a homeless quilt made of panhandling signs. Although we do not condone panhandling and must enforce the city ordinances that limit panhandling, it is never our intent or desire as a police department to make light of those who find themselves in a homeless state. Rather, our position has always been to partner with our community service providers to help those faced with homelessness with hope to improve their quality of life. And so I want to just note that the homeless population is increasing rapidly in the United States. In Alabama alone, 13% of the population is homeless. And so for those of you who think that you're untouchable and that this wouldn't happen to you, as Cenk mentioned, statistics prove otherwise. I mean, think about how unstable the economic situation is for a lot of Americans when it comes to student loan debt, when it comes to medical debt, when it comes to unaffordable housing. Wages have not kept up with inflation. Wages have not kept up with the rising cost of all these different elements and components of life. And so it goes beyond empathy. We need real action, we need real solutions. And the system that we have set up right now is, I mean, it'll victimize anyone who's not uber wealthy. And to see like this lack of compassion is disgusting.
Yeah, last two quick things here. Other people reminded me that once you get an eviction notice, and I have to confess, I haven't gotten one before. So that's why it's important to go talk to people who are in that condition, and it'll wake you up. They said once you get an eviction notice, well then that stays on your record. It makes it infinitely harder to get any other apartment. So then you get into another vicious cycle. So, and then when you don't have an apartment and you're living out of your car, it's harder to get a shower, which makes it much harder to get a job. It's one vicious cycle after another. But the last point is one of a little bit of hope. You'd be surprised, not just national groups, but in your neck of the woods, wherever you are in the country, there are oftentimes, almost always, some wonderful, heroic people that go out of their way to help the homeless over and over and again. Find those people and help them.